I am EP Vault. I am EP Vault. Uncover what they hide, uncover what they won't. I am EP Vault, and I uncover what others won't.
All right, joining us this morning, Dr. George Nichopoulos. Many people know him just as Dr. Nick, Elvis's personal physician. Doc, thanks for coming on this morning.
My pleasure.
He's joining us. First of all, he's written a book, but I want to ask you some questions before we get to that. Talk about your time with Elvis. The first time you met him, what were the circumstances?
I happened to be on call for the group of doctors that I worked for. It was on a weekend, and Elvis had been in town for about a week and had one of his wild hairs where he bought everybody that worked for him horses and trailers and took them in horseback riding. And he had a problem with riding for a week. He had a lot of soreness. And actually he had saddle sores. He was trying to get out of going back to California to do a movie he was supposed to start.
So you treated him?
Right.
And then after that, he liked the relationship so much he became his personal physician, or?
I think so. His doctor happened to be out of town the first time that I saw him, and he was living in California. And when he moved back to Memphis, I became his personal physician.
Okay. When he died, a lot of people blame the prescription drugs. Is that what killed Elvis Presley?
No, drugs had nothing to do with his death.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. That was proven and shown in my book from the toxicology studies that were done.
Did he have a drug dependency issue?
He only had a drug dependency issue one time after he came into Memphis real sick after receiving acupuncture from a physician out in California for 6 months. Well, he wasn't really getting acupuncture, he was getting shots of medications that he got addicted to.
Okay. And did you try to help him with his dependency?
Yeah, I got him in touch with the rehab people here in town that treat these things, and got him off everything all together.
Were you there when they did the autopsy?
Yes, I was in the room with him.
A lot of people say this: Elvis is alive. That is obviously not possible if you were there for his autopsy. Why do people say he is?
I don't know. I've tried to figure that out. I guess that, like all of us that loved him, we just didn't want to lose him. And I guess a lot of it is to do with making money and writing books.
Yeah, I've talked to some of those people who've written some of those books, and they have some eerie coincidences and things like that, and I guess they make a decent case. But if you were in the autopsy room when it was done. Dr. Nick, let me ask you about your book, Your Life with Elvis. What do you hope people will get from this book?
I wanted to get a feel of the kind of person that Elvis was and what he actually gave back to his fans and to music. He changed music, and I don't think it's really appreciated what he contributed towards this.
How close were you guys?
We were like we went to school together all our lives. I mean, we used to shoot marbles together or something. We just very close.
Did you go on some of the road trips?
I went on most of the road trips.
Is that right?
Yeah. Which caused a little dissension with my partners because they thought this was a vacation, and and it wasn't really a vacation taking care of so many people.
Why did you decide to write this book now? Have you been working on it for a while, or?
Well, I tried to write a book before, several years after he died, and I hadn't read any of the other books, but they were brought up in preparation for some of my trials, and there was so much trash written, and his name was trash, and I just didn't like what was going on, and the publishers that I talked to wouldn't let me write the book the way I wanted to write the book. They wanted to sensationalize it and make it look like he was an addict, and I just want to set the record straight.
Okay, and you do that in the King and Dr. Nick, What Really Happened to Elvis and Me. You set the record straight in this book?
I think so.
Okay. Well, Dr. Nick, thanks for coming on. Good to talk to you.
My pleasure.
And we will be right back. This is Good Morning Memphis on Fox 13 on a Monday morning.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to EP Vaults. Who we got in the house tonight? We got Jerry. We got Joyce. We got TB22K. We got Elvis A to Z. Hey, Rick. We got Svet. We got Jerry again. We got a full house, everybody. As you can see, we're going to be talking about The King and Dr. Nick. That's right. The King and Dr. Nick. I don't know why I talk like that, but I'm ready to go. Everybody ready to go? Have some fun? We got 18 people watching. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Oh, before I forget, we said we were going to talk about this on every live stream. So, the Blue Suede Crew fan club. The store is now available, everybody. And they got mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases. You name it, it's there. And there's even more stuff coming. So, you don't want to miss out. I'll put the link in the chat. And go and support. Because all the proceeds go to charity. And right now the charity is to get Cam, our friend Cam, to Memphis for next year for the 50th. So there's the link. Share it, post it, buy everything in the store. You know the drill. All right, folks. The King and Dr. Nick. Let's get going here. So, of course, this is everything we do on this channel is research. So we're using Dr. Nick's book to talk about this tonight. So we're looking at Dr. Nick's account, the documented medical record. We have a 2020 controversy to watch after we're done with this presentation. And we're asking the hard questions together. So at the end of the day, I'm planning on it, Svet. At the end of the day, this isn't a video to attack Dr. Nick. It's not a video to accuse him of overprescribing or none of that stuff. We're going to look at the facts, and it's up to you as the reader and viewer to make your own conclusion. I can't make it for you. You have to make it. I can present the facts all day long. Hey, Debbie. I can present the facts all day long. But at the end of the day, it's up to the viewer and the reader to make their own decision. So, with that being said, here's the key framing of the book. Dr. Nick's book argues he was a compassionate doctor turned scapegoat by sensationalist media. Our job is to weigh the claim against the evidence, not to simply accept it or reject it. So if everybody's ready, let's get this party started, shall we? Also remember, folks, hit that like button, hit that share button, and if you're new here, subscribe. We are trying to get to 100,000 followers, subscribers, whatever. Once we do that, there's going to be an epic, and I mean epic, exclusive prizes await giveaway here. Let's just say the prizes are going to be tenderly, and they're going to be loving, and they're going to be Elvis. So they're going to be tenderly loving Elvis, y'all. So hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends. Get a bullhorn and shout, subscribe to EP Vault! Do it! All right. So, who was Dr. Nick exactly? Let's start with this. He was no quack. He was a serious internist who performed the first kidney dialysis in the South. His entry into Elvis's world was almost accidental. A saddle sore call that turned into 3 trips to the ranch. Elvis kept finding reasons to bring him back. So let's think about this for a minute. Elvis liked Dr. Nick so much, he kept coming up with reasons to bring him back. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? He kept finding reasons to bring him back. Dr. Nick insists he was trying to control Elvis's drug intake, not enable it. The prosecution says he was enabling. Jury sided with Dr. Nick in the 1981 criminal trial. So, before reading Dr. Nick's book, right? Did all of you think Dr. Nick was responsible for Elvis's death? Did all of you think Dr. Nick was responsible for Elvis's death? Personally, I think for me, I don't really know, because I don't think a doctor is responsible for somebody's death. If you think about it from a medical perspective, right? A doctor only prescribes what the patient tells him. So if you, as a patient, tell your doctor what is wrong with you, then the doctor has to act. So if you think about it, Elvis being Elvis literally talked to Dr. Nick, told him what was wrong, and then Dr. Nick prescribed. So do you see where I'm going with this? I don't think it was Dr. Nick's fault. Dr. Nick was doing what he was paid to do, if that makes sense. He was paid to be a physician. At least that's my take on it. I could be totally wrong. All right, let's see here. Svet says yes. Joyce says, I thought he had a part in it. Svet, I thought he contributed. Jerry says no, a part of it. Debbie says no, I don't. Ray says yes. Okay. So, if you see on the right-hand side of the slide here, it says the book's thesis. Dr. Nick's 2009 memoir argues he was a compassionate physician turned scapegoat, a doctor who fought other doctors for control of Elvis's meds, used placebos extensively, and repeatedly tried to detox him. Now, speaking about placebos, somebody brought that up the other day, and we're going to go deeper this week into medical stuff. So I'm going to go over that at the end, but we're going to go deeper into placebos, why Elvis actually needed drugs in the first place. So you really don't want to miss that, because this is going to be a fantastic week here in the vault. We're going deep. But let's talk about who Dr. Nick was, right? So he was born October 29th, 1927 in Pennsylvania. He was a son of Greek immigrants, grew up in Alabama. He got his education in the Army Medical Corps in Germany in 1959. Introduced the first kidney dialysis in the South. Sorry, folks, I'm having trouble reading this here. His specialty was internal medicine, diagnostics. He joined the Memphis Medical Group in 1963. Like he said, he first met Elvis in February of 67 at the Circle G Ranch. He was called for saddle sores. Made 3 trips out before the day was done. His role was father figure, best friend, doctor. Whatever role was needed at the time. And then he passed away February 24th, 2016. So literally 20 years ago. Wow. 20 years ago, age 88. His license was revoked in 1995. The most important thing, he never gave up asserting his innocence. I want to highlight this comment right here. Joyce says, you could tell a doctor how you feel, but it's up to the doctor. He has a responsibility to do tests, etc., to come to a correct diagnosis and prescribe accordingly. I agree, Joyce, but how do I put this? I don't know. If you are a doctor treating the most famous man in the world, what would you do if you told him no? What would you do if you told him no and he went behind your back anyway to other doctors and do it? That's the thing. I know I'm not making any sense, but I'm rambling, and yeah. There was no internet back then, so I only knew what snippets I had read, which blamed Dr. Nick. Now we have the internet and we can find out a lot more information. Correct. The internet is a gold mine. All right, let's move on before I go crazy here. All right. This slide is crucial for reframing the conversation away from drug addict to chronically ill man. Almost none of these conditions were caused by drug use. Most of them caused the need for medication. Here's our key point here. The megacolon diagnosis is the most important one. Doctors Abel and Lair at the University of Mississippi confirmed after the fact that Elvis had colonic inertia, autonomic neuropathy, likely inherited from his mother Gladys, who had ptosis and migraines, signs of mitochondrial disease. Elvis literally had a paralyzed colon that was 2 to 3 times normal size. Barium from x-rays done months earlier was still in there at autopsy. No drug causes that. So here's our discussion question. Why has this medical picture been so underreported compared to the drug narrative? Who benefits from the junkie Elvis story? Royals, I want to talk about this. I personally think Elvis got hooked from the time he was given ones to stay awake while on patrol in the Army. I think people within the Memphis Mafia tried to help, but it was too late. Yeah. I mean, they tried to help, certainly. Look at Red, Sonny, and Dave. They tried to help and got fired. I mean, if you literally tried to tell Elvis what to do, he would can you. It's... Yes, Fat. Like I said, we're going to talk about that further later on this week. Dr. Nick was trying to control Elvis's medication intake. Oh, we're going to talk about that with the placebos and everything. Yep. Just exactly what I said, Joyce. The Red, Sonny, and Dave writing that book thought maybe he would turn his life around, but I'm of the certain that book killed him. I don't mean physically, but I mean mentally. I know he was not the same person when he found out about that book. He was an angry man. But anyway, back to our question here. Why do we think the medical picture of Elvis is so underreported than the drugs? Why do we think? I could tell you why. I could tell you exactly why. And I'm sure you know this answer too. It's all because of money. If people report that Elvis died from a drug overdose, it sells. If you just do a book or a thing on Elvis's health thing, it ain't gonna sell. There's no controversy. There's no drama. There's no hook. There's no... I can't think of the right word. It doesn't keep you engaged. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. If you want to sell something, you gotta centralize it. Exactly, Jerry. Money, money, money. That's my opinion, at least. Remember, folks, all these shows are for entertainment purposes. We're not calling people out. We're just stating our facts and talking about it. Money, honey. Money, honey. You know what I mean, those Fat. Exactly. No sensationalism, but look at Lisa's book, for example. If you didn't have Elvis on the cover of Lisa's book, I strongly do not think, and this is my opinion, I strongly do not think that book would have sold as well as it did. I'm telling you, you put Elvis on something, Elvis sells. You put Lisa by herself, and I love Lisa, it's not going to sell. I'm sorry. And now that we're on that topic, and I don't know how I got to that topic, but the whole thing about Lisa was she didn't want to live in her father's shadow. But yet, you put a picture of her and Elvis on the cover? Anyway, I'm sidetracking here, sorry. I'm having fun. All right. So this is the moment the whole book circles back to. So let's go over this timeline here. 2:00 in the morning, Elvis calls with tooth pain. Dr. Nick writes a script for Diluted. Rick Stanley picks it up from the pharmacy at 2:30 in the morning. 9:00 a.m. Elvis goes to the bathroom to read so light won't bother Ginger. Takes sleep meds. Ginger falls asleep. Elvis is awake reading. 9:30 a.m. Maids hear a loud thump upstairs. Ginger may have briefly woken, but went back to sleep. No one checks. 2 o'clock. Ginger wakes fully dressed with flawless makeup. Calls her mom, then checks on Elvis. Elvis finds him face down on the carpet, unresponsive. 2:15. Al Strada and Joe Esposito respond. Ambulance called. Dr. Nick reaches Graceland. CPR continues in ambulance en route to Baptist Hospital. 3:30. Elvis pronounced dead at Baptist Memorial Hospital. Both aides, Rick and David Stanley, were AWOL at a nearby motel. Dr. Nick says the words, "Stop CPR." He's gone. Here's some key details. Both aides, Rick and David Stanley, were AWOL. Rick at Howard Johnson with a date. David also at Howard Johnson drinking, drugging, having sex, and passed out. David arrived at Graceland around 2:30 and was heard saying, "I killed him, I killed him." He was not at Graceland during the emergency, as he later claimed. And he was one of ABC's star witnesses against Dr. Nick. Diluted prescribed that morning was not found in Elvis's blood at autopsy. He never took it or it wasn't in his system. Ginger Alden was fully dressed with flawless makeup when she raised the alarm. Unusual for someone supposedly just waking up. The carpet fiber detail is medically significant. A person dying of sedative overdose would not be gasping hard enough to pull fibers into the lungs. This is consistent with cardiac arrhythmia, not overdose. Now, does the image of Elvis reading in the bathroom, awake and active, change how you picture his final hours? All right. Svet says if he had stayed in bed, maybe Ginger would have realized something was wrong and he could have been saved. Now, I don't remember, Svet, but did Elvis give Ginger sleeping pills? Because if he gave her sleeping pills because she was on the pain from her period, if he gave her sleeping pills, there was no way she was going to wake up. And Royals, I've said that for years. If Gladys never died, Elvis would have never died, Ben would have never died, and Lisa would still be here today. Actually, I take all that back, because if Gladys never died, Elvis would have never married Priscilla in the first place, and we wouldn't have Lisa or Ben or any of them. So I take back what I said. So if he gave Ginger sleeping pills, there was no way she would have woken up. Yeah, I can't remember what she took exactly. Okay, so yeah, it was pills. Okay. So if she was on the pills, there was no way she was going to wake up. So yeah, and talking about that last day, remember Billy said he went in and asked if anybody had heard from Elvis, and he went up the stairs, but then he said no, he's got to rest. Let him rest. And I bet you Billy feels some sort of grief that he didn't just walk up the stairs and check on Elvis. Oh, it was codeine? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know what it was. But, I mean, I think codeine was what was found in the body. He was taken the dentist gave him codeine, but Elvis was allergic to codeine, I think. Guys, there's so much we can talk about this topic. Go on for days about it. Who said that? Svet. He was surrounded by the Memphis Mafia. But they all knew to leave him alone and let him sleep, so they didn't think to go up and check on him. I've taken codeine after surgery, but I still wake up depending on how much she took, I guess. Yeah, we don't know how much she took. But we also don't know if she's a heavy sleeper to begin with. Because if she's a heavy sleeper to begin with, then, I mean, when I'm out, I'm out. You're not going to wake me up for nothing. I'm not a light sleeper, so I don't know. I think Elvis was a light sleeper. All right. So now we're going to break down the 10,000 doses. This is what the media used to destroy Dr. Nick here. So, the prosecution's own toxicologist admitted Dr. Nick only prescribed 8 of the 44 drugs found in Elvis's body. And the drugs prescribed on the day Elvis died were not in his system at autopsy. Think about that. Think about that for a minute. The extraordinary amounts included medications for a 100-person tour entourage, antibiotics, decongestants, insulin for Felton Jarvis's kidney transplants, etc. The placebo operation was sophisticated and ongoing. Multiple witnesses confirmed it at the 1981 trial, including Sheila Ryan, who saw Dr. Nick emptying capsules and refilling them. James Neal's argument in closing: Dr. Nick's options were abandon Elvis entirely and let him get drugs from whoever would give them, or stay and try to control the situation. He chose to stay. I want to point this out too. It says right here, why so many prescriptions? Vernon Presley refused to pay for anything not billed in Elvis's name. All 100 tour personnel, band, crew, backup singers, nurses had their prescriptions prescribed to Elvis because that was the only way to get them paid. Dr. Nick, Al Strada, and tour personnel hollowed out capsules and refilled them with artificial sweetener. Nurse Tish Henley dispensed meds in sealed envelopes. Elvis couldn't access bottles directly. At least 4 to 5 other physicians, Dr. Cole in LA, Dr. Ganem in Vegas, Palm Springs doctors, prescribed to Elvis behind Dr. Nick's back. Sometimes mailing packages to Graceland. Dr. Nick had no control over this. So, here's our question here. If you were a 1981 juror hearing this, knowing only what was presented in court, would you have voted to acquit? If you didn't know Elvis, if you didn't know anything about this, if you were just on the jury and based on those facts alone, would you vote to acquit? I would. But that's just me. What do you think? That's true, Joyce. He did. He could tell. He could tell. Jerry says she would. Oh, you know what? Let's do a poll. I'm turning into Rick. Poll. Poll, poll, poll. All right, so we got yeses so far. We got 3 votes for yes. Keep them coming, folks. Vote, vote, vote. While you're voting, I just want to say, too, if you think about this, is this opening your eyes to Dr. Nick? Did you come into this thinking Dr. Nick was a villain? And now you're seeing things differently when you read the sources? And you get the material? Like, do we need to do one on the Colonel now? Because a lot of people like to think the Colonel is a villain. But if you think about it, the Colonel's just doing what Elvis told him to do. Just like Dr. Nick. Doing what Elvis told, doing what he was paid to do. And like Jerry just said, Elvis would go somewhere else. If Elvis wanted it, there was no way to stop him. He was going to get what he wanted, no matter what. If you didn't do it, somebody else would. Simple as that. All right. 6 votes, 100% yes. Good job, everybody. Where's my notes? That's why I wish I had dual screens like Rick. I could, but I'm too lazy. And that's honestly all we ask, Joyce. All we ask is that you approach it with an open mind. You don't come in and say and blast me for doing what I'm doing. You read the book and you learn and you make your own opinion. Simple as that. I did blame Dr. Nick at the start, but as I said, I think Dr. Nick did what he could do to help Elvis. He would go somewhere else, that way he could limit his intake. Exactly. All right. So this is one of our most important slides here. Steve Blisky, Healing Arts board investigator, admitted under oath he consulted no licensed physician before recommending charges. James Cole, ABC researcher, admitted under oath he was the one who gave the Healing Arts Board the tip that Elvis died a drug death. Dugman, board attorney, admitted giving ABC an interview while working on the case. The board extended their audit period from 6 months to 20 months, specifically because ABC suggested it. Now we go to Geraldo. Geraldo Rivera walks into Dr. Nick's office unannounced with a full camera crew. Dr. Nick agrees to talk. Rivera then reads out the 5,000 pills stat and demands Dr. Nick deny it on camera while scrolling pill names over his shocked face. Dr. Nick was not yet aware when he was being investigated when this interview happened. So now we're going to watch a video of Geraldo talking. So here we go, folks.
All right, joining us this morning, Dr. George Nichopoulos. Many people know him just as Dr. Nick, Elvis's personal physician. Doc, thanks for coming on.
The Elvis Cover-Up, which happened in 78, many argue that's what made 2020. It was the highest rated documentary ever. It was the highest rated 2020 until Barbara's Monica Lewinsky interview, and it's still the second highest rated. It got like a 43 share of the audience. It was something extraordinary. And basically it was the grim, melancholy story of the prescription pill junkie that Elvis had become, and ultimately cost him his life.
How would you describe the format of the show and how it was received?
Initially it was not well received at all. It wasn't the stories. It was a typical magazine format. It wasn't that revolutionary. It was two anchors, and they introduced the stories of the various correspondents on the team. The anchors only lasted 1 week. The ratings were disastrous. My first story was widely criticized. It was about the abuse of racing greyhounds, as I recall. Mm-hmm. Pretty good story, I think. It was just, I think, it was more the choice of what the story was about. Oh, this is what he's going to talk about, dogs, and by the third week, I did a Rolling Stones story, a profile of Mick Jagger. They said, "Oh, that's what he should do. Stick to that stuff that he knows, not the real hard stuff." But the anchors were gone in the first week, and they brought in Hugh Downs, who became a great friend, a wonderful colleague with whom I would often go in the field. We had shared a lot of interests: racing sailboats, having perilous adventures, trekking the wild. He was a wonderful guy. He was already had the bad rap of being too old for television in 1978. I think he's still doing it now. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. I came to know and love him, and he took over as anchor, and the show took off and became a fixture in the same way 60 Minutes. It was much less now. I argue that once I left, it lost that cachet, but that's in the eye of the beholder.
All right. Yeah, I didn't like him either, but, he just because we don't like somebody, we have to acknowledge him because it's history, folks. Just like that whole D. Stanley thing. It's history. Whether you like it or not, it happened. We don't shy away from it. We're going to talk about it. Simple as that. And if you don't like it, you don't have to watch. That's the beautiful thing. So, now let's talk about the domino effect. September 4th, 1979. Baptist Hospital orders review of Dr. Nick's cases. September 14th, 79. The DA opens criminal investigations into Dr. Nick based on what they read in newspapers. Wow. January 1980. World's most famous medical board hearing. 500-seat chamber, global media, 3-month suspension. May 1980. Grand jury indicts Dr. Nick, 11 counts. Faces up to 110 years in prison. November 1981. Criminal trial. James Neal defends. Not guilty on all counts after 3-hour deliberation. 1983 to 95. Second round of charges. Jerry Lee Lewis. License permanently revoked. $300,000 in legal fees. 1994. State Commission Dr. Joseph Davis. Drugs did not kill Elvis. Barely reported. So think about this for a minute here. Let's go back to the Elvis is alive garbage, right? If Elvis truly faked his death and he was alive, do you really think he would allow Dr. Nick to go through this? That's the $1 million question. Like, why are people not putting two and two together? Why do people think that, oh, Elvis faked his death because his grave is misspelled? Anyway, that's my thoughts about it. So, at the end, we're going to watch this 2020 cover-up. I've got the full thing. We're going to watch it and talk about it. So, let's continue here. So, what actually killed Elvis Presley? The autopsy battle is genuinely unresolved. Both sides have credentialed experts. The bioscience lab owned consultant later admitted the Folly Pharmacy conclusion was a well-educated guess, not a medical certainty. The drugs in Elvis's system were ones he'd been taking for months. His tolerance meant they couldn't kill him at those levels. Dr. Merrigan, at 1/600th of the Valium level that causes overdose death, it's like saying a sip of beer killed someone. The 1994 review, which was state commissioned and independent, sided with natural causes and was barely reported by anyone. The drug overdose theory made better television. That's why it persists. When you strain hard, as on the toilet, you temporarily compress the aorta. The body responds by slowing the heart. In someone with Elvis's cardiac history and massively enlarged colon pressing on everything, this could have triggered fatal arrhythmia. He fell forward on the carpet, gasping. The carpet fibers confirm it. So here's my $1 million question. Does this theory change your mental image of Elvis's death? And does it matter how he died for how we remember him? I don't think it does. I think personally, we need to remember him for him. It doesn't matter how he died because we can't go back and change it, if that makes any sense. So we have to accept the fact that he died. And we have to honor his legacy by remembering the good times and remembering the music and the movies and all this other fun stuff. But no, it doesn't matter how he died. It just matters that we keep him alive in our hearts. Simple as that. I agree, Jerry. Elvis would have built at his art, his tolerance over years. Yep, definitely. So this is where we're going to get investigative here. Everybody put on your investigation hats. It's where we can point out the hypocrisy of who got scrutinized and who got to tell their story on 2020. I agree, Joyce. When it's your time, it's your time. Simple as that. So first up is the Stanley brothers. The most explosive revelation in the book. Dick Grobe's full investigation found both Rick and David were not at their posts. David, "I killed him" statement was witnessed by multiple people. David Stanley has written books, and is writing another one, and done interviews portraying himself as a reformed witness to Elvis's suffering. This book challenges his entire narrative. And of course, if you want to go back in time and look at the narrative, you can go to other videos on this channel where we deep dive into David Stanley and what he says and how it's not true. Like the fact that he said he was the one that found Elvis on the ground in the bathroom. How's that possible when you weren't even in the house, David? Exactly. Colonel Parker. The book is surprisingly restrained about Parker, given how obvious his role is. But read between the lines here. Parker's insistence on grinding tour schedules, refusal to let Dr. Nick reduce concerts, and blocking Elvis from seeing real treatment are documented throughout. After the Houston disaster, where a substitute doctor gave Elvis sparring that left him slurring on stage, Parker called Dr. Nick personally, begging him to come back, then refused to apologize to Dr. Nick's face. So the media puts all the blame on Dr. Nick, but how do you apportion blame between Dr. Nick, Parker, the Stanley brothers, the other doctors, and Elvis himself? It's a very good question. I don't think we can blame one person, you know? And this is going to sound crazy, but I think it's a mix of everybody. And I think the media is not fair on blaming just Dr. Nick. I think they need to blame everybody. Because if you think about it, if the Stanley brothers were on call that day and they were actually in the house, do you think they would have checked on him and possibly saved him instead of goofing off at the Howard Johnson down the street? I don't know. What I've never understood is how nobody, after they heard that bang upstairs, why nobody went and checked on him. That's what I never understood. If you hear something upstairs in your house, wouldn't you want to investigate it? Or am I just crazy? I know if I hear something, I would definitely want to investigate it. But what do I know? Thank you, Joyce. I like to think so. Exactly. So why didn't anybody? That's the $1 million question. So even if it was just the maid's vet, like, who was it? Mary? Was it Mary or Nancy? It was one of them. They should have went upstairs and checked on him. Simple as that. They should have went upstairs to figure out what that noise was. Because there's no way no one didn't hear that noise at the house. Exactly, Debbie. Exactly. All right. The criminal trial is the emotional heart of the book, and it's where Dr. Nick's case is strongest. James Neal's football analogy. Trial law is like football or war. The team that makes the fewest mistakes wins. He was out-prepared and out-thought the prosecution at every turn. The Good Samaritan framing. Neil told the jury that Dr. Nick's only choice was to abandon Elvis, let him get drugs from whoever would give them, or stay and try to manage the situation. He chose to stay. That is not criminal. Exactly. Oh, it was Nancy? Okay. I knew it was one of them. But yeah. So, Dr. Nick chose to stay. It's not like he was forced. He chose to stay. What's the problem with that, medical board? The juror quotes afterward are wonderful. It all boiled down to whether he had motivation for overprescribing. It didn't matter how many prescriptions they showed us. The easiest counts to decide were the ones about Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis. We thought he tried his hardest to help them. The tragedy was Dr. Nick was acquitted criminally in 1981, but the medical board still suspended him and then permanently revoked his license in 1995 over the Jerry Lee Lewis methadone case, using an unqualified pediatrician as their expert witness. The system found a way to punish him anyway. If the jury acquitted him after seeing all the evidence, why does the public still think of Dr. Nick as the man who killed Elvis? Simple. Like we talked about before. Sensationalism. That's literally all it is. Oh, he was acquitted? That's not going to sell. So we need to make up a story that says he killed Elvis. That's my take on it. I know, right? How unfair to Dr. Nick. He lost his medical license for nothing. All right, so let's look at these discussion questions here, shall we? Number 1, the megacolon theory says a congenital condition, not drugs, set up Elvis's death. If colonic surgery had been available and performed in 1975, Elvis might be alive. Who do you blame for that missed opportunity? Who do I blame for that missed opportunity? I blame Vernon. And I'll tell you why. Because that insurance wouldn't have been cheap. So if you think about it, Vernon didn't want to pay for nothing. So I blame Vernon. I could be totally wrong here. Elvis could have had the best health insurance in the world that would have covered it. I don't know that. But my first thought is Vernon. What do you think? Who do you blame for the missed opportunity? Either Vernon or Elvis himself. Because honestly, too, if you think about it, if Elvis got the surgery done, that would have put him out for months. He would have been light up at home for months. And he couldn't tour. He couldn't make any money. His colonel wouldn't have taken that. So maybe I blame everybody. I don't know. It's a very tough question. Because of Vernon? I'm just thinking out loud, Jerry. I was thinking just because of the financial reasons. I don't know that. I don't know that it's true, but Vernon didn't like to spend money. Vernon was always worried that they were gonna spend all the money and have nothing left. Yeah, but if you think about it, Jerry, from where I'm coming from, Elvis would have definitely had time to recover, yes, but how would that have affected him with all his reckless spending? That's where I'm coming from. Because as we've talked about before on the channel, Elvis spent more than he was bringing in. So if he kept spending while he wasn't working and just recovering, then he wouldn't have any money coming in. It's okay, Joyce. So that's all I'm getting at. Okay, moving right along. Elvis had 12 plus serious conditions. Why has the drug narrative dominated over the medical one? Well, who benefits from junkie Elvis versus chronically ill Elvis? We already answered this. It's all about money. Money, money, money. Chronically ill Elvis won't sell. That's all I'm saying. Junkie Elvis, mystery. Mystery. You know, like I said before, it's all about the money. Dr. Nick used placebos without Elvis's knowledge, replacing real drugs with sugar. Was that ethical deception or the only tool available? I don't think it was the only tool available, but I think he was trying to do what was right and weed Elvis off the pills. Unfortunately, it didn't work because, as we talked about before, Elvis was able to see that, to do that. You know what I mean. Elvis was able to taste it and see it. And he knew something was wrong. So I don't think it was the only tool available. And I don't think it was ethical deception. I think it was just Dr. Nick trying to shake things up and do the right thing at the end of the day. ABC and the Tennessee Medical Board coordinated Operation Nick, admitted in Thompson's own book. Does knowing this change how you view the Elvis cover-up? I think we'll have an answer to that after we watch it. Oh yeah, David, he did. That's a topic for another day, but yes, he did. That's a whole other deep dive that we need to go into. Definitely. Rick and David Stanley were AWOL the day Elvis died, then became ABC's star witnesses. How does their absence fit into the larger failure around Elvis? Well, like we said before, they were young. They didn't know any better. And I don't know that if they were there, they would have done anything to anyway. I don't know, though. I really don't know. The jury acquitted Dr. Nick in 3 hours. The 1994 State Review cleaned Elvis of drug overdose. The public still thinks Dr. Nick killed Elvis. Was justice done? I don't think justice was done because Dr. Nick didn't kill Elvis. It's quite simple. We've honestly come to that conclusion, I feel like. The only person that killed Elvis was Elvis. Am I wrong? Dr. Nick didn't overprescribe. Like I said before, Vernon didn't want to pay, and he wrote the things to Elvis anyway for everybody. So I don't think justice was done. David, Ricky was there, but he also flew to the Howard Johnson down the street. Him and David. So they weren't in the house at all when Elvis died. All right. Where am I here? Oh, I'm in Keynote. Okay. So, presenter display. The courts acquitted him. An independent toxicologist confirmed Elvis died of heart disease. A state-commissioned pathologist with 20,000 autopsies said the same. And yet, the license was revoked. The career was gone. $300,000 in legal fees. And the public still calls him the doctor who killed Elvis. Elvis's death was a systematic failure of the people who were supposed to be watching him, of a manager who valued concerts over health, of a medical profession that didn't yet understand how to treat celebrity addiction, and of a medical environment that needed a villain more than it needed the truth. Dr. Nick may not be entirely blameless, but the degree to which he was made to carry the entire weight of that failure, while Parker, the Stanley brothers, and the other doctors walked away, says something important about how we construct narratives around icons. All right. So I want to tease what's coming up the rest of the week. If I can find the photo. That would have been yesterday. I said that, yes. So where is my photo? Oh, where is my photo? Oh, where is my photo? All right, we're going to use this one. Just keep in mind the dates are all wrong on it, but we're going to use this one because this is the one I can find right now. So this is where we are at for this week. So today we did Dr. Nick's book. Tomorrow we are doing Marion Cox's book. I Called Him Babe. We're going to review it, talk about it. It's going to be fun. That's going to all the rest of the week's going to be pre-recorded, so we won't have another live till Sunday, y'all. And then Wednesday, we're going to do The Truth About Elvis and Placebo Pills, like we talked about. Thursday, Why Elvis Needed Prescription Drugs in the First Place. And then Friday, a special Friday show because of Mother's Day this week. We're going to do Why Elvis Presley's Full Autopsy Still Won't Be Released in 2027. So, that's our week, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful deep dive we had into the world of Dr. Nick. I feel like we had a fantastic discussion. I'm glad everybody's here. Everybody's participating and having fun. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to watch the 2020 special. It's about 55 minutes long, and then we're going to wrap it up. So thank you all for joining me tonight. I'm going to put this on, and we'll talk in the chat while it's playing.
The Elvis Cover-Up, which happened in 78.
And who spent millions of dollars buying his records, seeing his movies. 2 days ago, the news came from Nashville of a charge against Elvis Presley's personal physician, accused by the Tennessee State Board of Medical Examiners of indiscriminately prescribing uppers, downers, and pain-killing drugs that Elvis Presley consumed in large quantities. For months, Geraldo Rivera has been investigating this story, and because of its startling nature, we're devoting our entire hour tonight to Geraldo Rivera's special 2020 report on the man known as the King of Rock and Roll. Geraldo.
Thank you, the king he was. Elvis Presley was a giant on America's cultural landscape, a man filled with passion and fire at a time when most of the rest of the country was sleepwalking through its cultural life. He didn't invent rock and roll, he just hand-carried it into the mainstream. Elvis Presley was different, and because he was good at it, it paid off. All 28 of his movies were moneymakers, and his records have sold somewhere between 700 and 800 million copies. That works out to roughly one Elvis Presley record for each family on the face of the earth. Despite the fact that hundreds of thousands of people worshipped him, the king demonstrated the fact of his mortality when he died at the age of 42. They told us of a heart attack. But did Elvis Presley really die of a heart attack? That's what this special edition of 2020 is all about.
The police came out and they filmed the show, so I couldn't move. I had to stand still. The only thing I moved was my little finger, like that.
He was, of course, the first and greatest of the world's rock stars, and his death shocked the nation. The working-class hero, the hillbilly cat, was dead. And 2 years later, hundreds of thousands still mourn his passing. Sensitive, sensual, generous, talented, he had been living proof that the rags-to-riches American dream could still come true. Since his death, that memory has been tainted slightly by a smoldering controversy. Did Elvis...
I think he had a heart attack. That's what I'd like to believe, that he died from a heart attack.
I know he had a hard life. It would make no difference.
Everybody should be told the truth.
I've been thinking about that. I hope and pray that he didn't do it on purpose.
We know that at the time of his death, Elvis was no longer the slim, swivel-hip sex symbol he once was. As this videotape of his last concert clearly shows, by June of '77, 2 months before he died, Elvis seemed strained and swollen. But despite his apparent physical condition, he could still thrill his audience with the power of his voice and the strength of his personality.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to say hello to my girlfriend, Ginger. Ginger, stand up, honey. Sit down, Ginger. It's enough for her.
After Elvis died,
Then it was about 4 o'clock, and I asked Elvis if he still wanted to play racquetball, which he had mentioned playing earlier. And he said yes. Elvis got in touch with Billy Smith, and Billy and his wife Jo came up at about 4:30. We went down to play racquetball. So Elvis really seemed like he was in a good mood. He played racquetball for a little while, and then went and played the piano. It was about 6 o'clock when we went back into Graceland.
The investigation was continuing, but apparently acting on his own initiative. The county medical examiner, Dr. Jerry T. Francisco, who had been present at the autopsy, went before the cameras and told a much different story. without the advice or consent from the doctors from Baptist Hospital who had actually performed the autopsy, Dr. Francisco told the waiting world that Elvis Presley had died of a heart attack.
Results of the autopsy are that the cause of death is a cardiac arrhythmia due to undetermined causes. There are several cardiovascular diseases that are known to be present. One is a mild degree of hypertension that had been under treatment for some time, and that there was hardening of the arteries, the coronary arteries of the heart, known as coronary atherosclerosis.
To the millions of people who knew the man and his music and loved it, people like me, Dr. Francisco's announcement brought almost a sigh of relief. Elvis Presley was dead, but while that was terrible, at least he had died of natural causes. At least the king had not followed in the melancholy rock and roll tradition of Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, and all the others. But did Elvis really die of a heart attack? Sometimes the truth hurts. Our investigation indicates he did not. We'll tell you the real story of how and why he died after this.
Shocked and saddened millions of Elvis fans. The public was told that his death was caused by heart attack. But almost from the moment he died, rumors began spreading about Elvis Presley's problems with drugs and about what really might have killed him. Geraldo Rivera has completed an extensive investigation of the death of Elvis Presley and the mystery surrounding it. Geraldo, it seems that you may have located the key to the mystery.
The key to the mystery is the Shelby County medical examiner, Dr. Jerry T. Francisco, and if we had his help, we could have cracked this case months ago, but we did not. He consistently refused to be interviewed by us. Claiming that the information is confidential, he has also refused to make public the autopsy results that would lay to rest once and forever the controversy over how and why Elvis Presley died. In order to obtain those results, we filed a lawsuit against Dr. Francisco, the medical examiner. Our motives are simple. Based on the evidence you're about to see, we believe there's been a cover-up. Item. As far as we can determine, no member of the staff of Baptist Hospital, including Dr. Eric Muirhead, the internationally known pathologist who headed the autopsy team, has ever agreed with Dr. Francisco, the medical examiner's conclusions. They have never said that Elvis died of natural causes. Maurice Elliott, spokesman for Baptist Hospital.
We never confirmed them, and we were not able to disagree with them either because of the fact that we are required to maintain the confidentiality of these records as a private patient as they now stand.
Leading inevitably, Mr. Elliott, to speculation that the staff of Baptist Hospital arrived at a different conclusion than the staff of the medical examiner's office.
Well, yes, obviously that speculation does exist, but there's just no way we can comment on it or put it to rest, really, and still maintain our obligation to respect the confidentiality or to maintain the confidentiality of the information.
But there is one doctor who was present at the autopsy who did consent to talk with us on the record. His name is Noel Florendo, and he was an assistant to Dr. Muirhead. Dr. Florendo was called in on the autopsy because he's an expert in the use of the electron microscope. Working now at another hospital in Memphis, Dr. Florendo had the courage to tell us what really happened in the autopsy room. Remember, Dr. Francisco is the Shelby County medical examiner who announced Elvis had died of a heart attack, but Dr. Muirhead is the man who actually supervised the autopsy. Dr. Florendo, in your medical judgment, was there any evidence that Elvis Presley died of a heart attack?
From what I saw grossly and from what my limited judgment was at that particular time, there was no gross evidence of a heart attack.
There was no gross evidence of a heart attack?
No gross evidence of a heart attack.
Were you surprised by Dr. Francisco's announcement that he had died of cardiac arrhythmia?
Personally, yes, I was surprised.
What is cardiac arrhythmia?
Cardiac arrhythmia, best explained, is an irregularity in the heartbeat sufficiently irregular enough to cause death.
And in Elvis Presley's case?
I could not find any morphological evidence of that, and indeed, I do not think there is any morphological evidence grossly to substantiate cardiac arrhythmia.
So in your opinion, he did not die? Data revealed the following narcotic drugs in the body of Elvis Aaron Presley: codeine, morphine, methaqualone, also known as Quaaludes, Valium, Valmid, Placidil, Nembutal, phenobarbital, pentobarbital, and butabarbital. All of them are so-called downers, central nervous system depressants, usually taken to bring on relaxation and sleep The drugs are often abused. Several are addictive. The list of drugs found in Elvis Presley's body is certainly shocking enough. But in all likelihood, even that doesn't represent the whole extent of his drug abuse problem. ABC News has learned that shortly after Elvis's body was brought here to Baptist Memorial Hospital, the contents of his stomach were pumped out. And although the contents of the stomach are generally considered of vital importance in pinpointing the cause of death, they were destroyed in this case without ever having been analyzed. Given all we know now about Elvis Presley's drug abuse problem, it's reasonable to assume that vital evidence was therefore destroyed. Evidence of whatever drugs Elvis had taken shortly before he died. What we've so far been unable to determine is whether that evidence was destroyed intentionally or merely through neglect. In October of 1977, 2 months after Elvis was found dead in his bathroom at Graceland, word of the drugs found began leaking to the newspapers in Memphis. To quiet the spreading rumors, Dr. Jerry T. Francisco held another press conference.
Shelby County Medical Examiner Dr. Jerry Francisco told reporters that the conclusion of his 2-month autopsy into the death of Elvis Presley.
To Raymond Kelly of Bioscience.
When we undertake to do this sort of analysis, we do it in the most thorough and conclusive way as we possibly can. And we don't rush ourselves. We utilize every analytical technique we have available, and that includes some of the most sophisticated methods anywhere in the country.
What about in a case with medical legal implications?
We exercise more care in that sort of analysis than anything else that we do, because it has potential legal significance.
How about the Elvis Presley case, specifically? How was that treated here?
Well, that's the most important medical legal case we've ever had. And so we, if anything, exercised even more care in the analysis of those specimens than we would normally exercise.
How do you respond then to the criticism by Dr. Francisco and others that the results found here at Bioscience could be discounted?
That doesn't seem reasonable to me at all. I think that a person making that statement just couldn't be familiar with the way that we approach these kind of samples.
As you know, Doctor, we have obtained by independent means a chart, a table that lists the drugs that were present in Mr. Presley's body at the time of death. How sure are you that those numbers accurately represent the levels found in Mr. Presley's body at the time of death?
I'm sure beyond a reasonable doubt.
The findings asked for a second expert opinion. We provided the data to Dr. Cyril Wecht, the coroner for Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, for analysis. Dr. Wecht is one of the foremost medical examiners in the entire country.
I believe that Mr. Presley died as a result of a combined drug effect. Various drugs, all of which are known to be central nervous system depressants, collectively cause the heart and lung to be depressed. The brain controls the activities of the heart and lung involuntarily. And when the brain is depressed by multiple drugs, such as happened in this case, in my opinion, the heart and lungs will not function properly.
What drug specifically are we referring to, Doctor?
As indeed it did. At this point in the story, there's something very important to be added. Elvis Presley was certainly no street addict. The drugs which destroyed his world and which finally killed him were all prescription medicine. He got the codeine from his dentist, the morphine and the quaaludes from his doctor. The drugs were all legal medicine prescribed by licensed doctors and dentists. That last prescription, for instance, the morphine, was written by a man named Dr. George Nichopoulos. Dr. Nick, as he was called at Graceland, had been a close friend and a member of Elvis's so-called Memphis Mafia since 1966. I'll have a lot to say about Dr. Nick and about some of the other doctors who wrote some of the other prescriptions when 2020 returns after this. Cover-Up is a special 2020 investigation of the facts and circumstances surrounding the death of Elvis Presley. When the program continues, we'll be meeting the licensed doctors who provided Elvis with the legal medicine that killed him, the doctors, and the role they played in the bizarre life and unnecessary death of Elvis Presley. When 2020 continues in a moment.
Tonight, 2020 is presenting the results of an investigation by Geraldo Rivera into the death of Elvis Presley. We've established that Elvis Presley was dependent on drugs, drugs prescribed by his own doctors, doctors who were supposed to help him.
The doctors that wrote the prescriptions, in my opinion, contributed 70% of his early demise. I don't think anybody should die.
Patient. Well, there's 16 different patients we have charged him with concerning these particular drugs we've talked about.
Is Elvis Presley?
Elvis Presley is one of these individuals.
Was his case the single most glaring case?
Without a doubt, Elvis Presley, from my experience, was issued more Schedule II uppers, downers, amphetamines than any other individual I have seen.
This is the worst case of overprescribing or of indiscriminate prescribing that I have ever seen in my time as an investigator with the state of Tennessee.
Elvis wasn't Dr. Nick's only patient in the entourage. Marty Lacker was Elvis's bookkeeper and the best man at his wedding to Priscilla. Medical authorities were told how Dr. Nick prescribed Lacker more than 13,000 pills in less than 4 years, an average of about 10 a day.
They just looked at the records and asked if I was alive. And he said yes. And asked if I was still taking them, and he said no. And asked how I got off them, and he said, well, he withdrew from, by himself. And so the next question they asked if I was in a mental institution. And he said no, thank God.
It was that bad, Marty?
Sure it was.
The state's complaint against Dr. Nichopoulos lists 16 patients to whom Dr. Nick was allegedly overprescribing narcotic drugs, including performer Jerry Lee Lewis and Dr. Nick's own daughter, Chrissy. But the list of narcotic drugs he prescribed to Elvis Presley just during the last 7 months of Elvis's life is quite simply incredible, averaging about 25 narcotic pills a day. Only following orders. There are a lot of people who have a lot to answer for, and they will. We'll be back after this.
And the pen still writes. 1963, Bic shoots its pen from a rifle. The barrel shatters, but the pen still writes. Today, Bic is mounted on a jackhammer that slams into concrete with 1,200 foot-pounds of pressure, and it writes. For 20 years, Bic's been giving America its money's worth. The Bic pen, even when you treat it wrong, it writes. Now save on...
Geraldo Rivera with more on the Elvis Cover-Up.
The official investigation of the death of Elvis Presley, at least insofar as we've been able to determine, must rank among the worst, most unprofessional investigations of this type ever made. For whatever reason or motive, essentially no real effort was ever made to truly unearth the circumstances of Elvis Presley's death. It seems almost as if the city of Memphis itself just did not care to know the truth about the death of its most prominent citizen. Consider, if you will, the following points. Because Elvis Presley meant so much to so many people, it's easy to understand the desire to keep the best memories intact. But the public also has the right to know the truth, the right to know if we've been deceived, the right to make up our own mind. And regardless of the ultimate conclusions as to why he died, his death will never diminish or taint the enormous contributions he made during his life. He was one of a kind. He was a phenomenon. He was the king of rock and roll. Reporting this story has been a melancholy personal experience for me because I wanted it not to be true. For the last 2 years, I've made it a point to ignore the rumors of Elvis's drug abuse, and I even got angry at the people telling the stories, but they were right. It was true. By the end of his life, Elvis Presley had become a medical addict. The one positive thing about this report came this morning when the Attorney General of Memphis and Shelby County, Hugh Stanton, told us that finally, 2 years after the fact, he's going to conduct a criminal investigation of the death of Elvis Presley. A criminal investigation of the doctors who gave him the pills that killed him.
And there's a heavy irony in the fact that the desire to preserve Elvis's whole life caused a community and a nation of fans to be unwitting participants in what impeded an early investigation and full disclosure.
And allowed these doctors to go on doing business as usual.
Right. Thank you, Geraldo. Next Thursday and on Thursdays to come, 2020 returns to its regular focus. We'll be bringing you a mix of stories on a wide range of subjects. We hope you'll be with us. Remember, we're in touch, so you be in touch. I'm Hugh Downs. Good night.
Then Michael Parks is a misfit cop.
I'm Hugh Downs, and this is 2020.
ABC News Magazine, 2020. Tonight.
The terrible thing about the COINTEL program is it was deliberate lies.
This nation's federal police force, sworn to uphold the law, lied, broke the law, subverted justice in order to discredit tens of thousands of Americans, like actresses Jane Fonda and Jean Seberg, and civil rights leader Martin Luther King, and even a St. Louis housewife. In a frightening investigative report, Sylvia Chase exposes the FBI's
IMEP Vault. IMEP Vault. Uncover what they hide.